You have been summoned to this review of Juror number 2. I am Tim. That is Tyler. We make up the meltdown here live from the state of Alabama. The movie Juror number 2 taking place there in the state of Georgia, a neighboring state, and a film that I am still surprised to this point has been as suppressed as it's been in its rollout to theaters. You may not have gotten a chance to see it so far. We do want to tell you we will be getting into spoiler territory here with Juror number 2. It does end up on Max December 20th of 2024. So if you're going to see it then and come back to us, check out this review after you've seen the film. Tyler, I want to start with you. Juror number 2, expectations going in and feeling of it coming out.
So expectations didn't really have many because I barely knew this thing existed because of the total lack of a marketing push from Warner Brothers on this film. But I was checking the AMC app one day and I saw it and I said, "Oh, I like Nicholas Hoult. Oh, J.K. Simmons is in this? Sweet. Directed by Clint Eastwood. How have I not heard of this thing?"
Right. This thing should not be a hidden gem. It should be proudly presented to audiences all across the United States. And it has very meticulously been held back for some reason. And I didn't know we had got it in one theater within this market until you went to go see it. So, how did you feel coming out of the movie? We've talked on air on the Meltdown Live show about the fact that you didn't have the best theater experience. A lot of people talking, a lot of people ruining the experience. But when it comes to the movie itself, you didn't hold any of that against the movie.
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, theater crowds are theater crowds. It depends on the movie and also the time of day and what day you go. Sometimes you just get a bad draw. But Juror number 2 was fantastic. I really enjoyed this. It felt like a return to the sort of 90s courtroom drama film, and I just really enjoyed it. I enjoyed all of the performances in this movie and was just left wondering why more people don't know about it.
I have almost, when I look at juror number 2, almost just one complaint, but it's a pretty big one.
Mhm.
In the piece of the puzzle that I needed to be stronger, it was the actual case itself that was being discussed at the center of the jury selection and as at the center of the actual courtroom spectacle. The case itself, boyfriend girlfriend, they have, kind of a rough relationship. They get into a little bit of a spat at the bar. There's witnesses there that are like, oh, he's obviously an abuser. She goes off, wandering by herself and then ends up dead in a ravine. And then he gets obviously arrested and charged with her murder. And I just needed that to be a little bit more captivating. If I could have been as interested in those characters in the initial case as I was in the characters that made up the jury and the courtroom, and you know, if I could have been as connected to those characters, this thing would have been potentially a 4.5 or 5 out of 5 for me. But there was some disconnect for me personally with the case itself and the actual intrigue of the movie, which is the jury selection process and them trying to decide on a verdict.
Do you think it's because you can figure out who actually did it so early? Because I had that sort of feeling during like the first flashback. I was like, "Oh, that's where this is leading," and it led exactly there.
So that's a great point. I hadn't really thought of that, but it is the limited marketing that I did see for this movie. It was very much, and even in like the sort of the lines describing the movie, it was very much like a juror with a connection to the case ends up realizing like, oh crap, it doesn't say it just like that, but you're right in that that wasn't a big twist or reveal
Right.
because the fact that Nicholas Hoult is involved in this in some way. I mean, and it's pretty thick. It lays it on pretty thick. So
Oh yeah.
even if you hadn't seen the marketing, you know that there's some connection. However, what I think it does really interestingly is Nicholas Hoult is not all good and he's not all bad.
Mhm.
He's very gray. And you sort of do root for him to not get found out. Then you also go like, wait, he's kind of like constantly playing with fire during this process. Like he's constantly showing up to the crime scene or he's going and having conversations with people where you're like, dude, just let it rest. Like, he's the one holding up the jury process from having a verdict being able to be, uh, announced in the court. Like, it's weird that he's the biggest driver of the story and also the one that keeps it from developing.
He's trying to keep
Yeah,
everyone from finding out the secret while also at the same time creating every possibility for people to find out that he's responsible.
absolutely correct, and I don't hold that against the movie. I actually find it to be riveting as a
Oh yeah.
plot device in that the main guy who doesn't wanna get caught can't help but tell everybody like, "Hey, oh, by the way, have you looked at me as a possible suspect?" You know, I'm surprised he didn't at some point when he's in there, like, have some sort of sketch and be like, "I think he looks like this," and it be the exact same as his own face of who did this. Like, so I once again, I think the script is good. I think the ensemble is even better. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
you mentioned the names. Tony Collette, fantastic in this as sort of that district attorney candidate who's looking for that big win, who's playing to the press, and if she would have represented Arthur Fleck in Joker 2, it could have been a very different outcome.
That would have been a good lawyer to
Yeah,
have.
it would have been the opposite way around, right? Where once again, she's the district attorney in this, but I really like the public defender in Chris Messina. I think he is fantastic as a performer and always rounds out a great cast as sort of that character actor who's always playing that detective or always playing that guy in a legal role. And Chris Messina is really good in this. J.K. Simmons, you mentioned.
He's fantastic in everything. He just brings that level of excellence to every project he's attached
Yeah.
to. I'd also like to shout out Cedric Yarbrough.
Hmm.
Very solid performance. Love him in the Boondocks. It was great to see him in live action for this.
There's only one thing I would have really liked, Tyler, and this is once again just a small nitpick. I would have liked a really, really famous person to be in the jury selection that doesn't get picked. Like, because it's like there's no way J.K. Simmons is sitting there a bunch of unknowns and he's not going to get picked. I would have loved for like, I don't know.
Taylor Swift.
Yeah, okay, Taylor Swift or you
It's a
know,
cameo.
I don't know Shabuzi. I would have loved for Shabuzi to be sitting there. Like, man, I gotta go.
Flava Flav.
Or Tom Cruise just happens to be there.
Tom Green.
Yeah, I will take all of those. Just like give me a smattering of celebrities, and then we don't know who's going to make up the jury pool because J.K. Simmons sitting there going like, I just run a flower shop, and he's around a bunch of people who aren't going to get picked. It kind of takes away some of the reveal there. But
Uh,
and then here's a surprising one that was in the movie. I had no idea until he pops up.
Kiefer Sutherland.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Like low key, he's just in there like, yeah, I like Clint. I'll do the movie, and he's in a role where he makes the most of every minute of screen time. It's a
Oh yeah.
throwaway role that's enhanced because Kiefer Sutherland is in the role, and you're like,
Absolutely.
this is awesome. So it's a wonderful ensemble. It's a sneakily good ensemble. This movie. It's a really tight script where just conversations happening in the hallway, you feel the tenseness. When you can have a movie that's an adult drama in this day and age where some random conversation in a hallway is like drawing you in
Mhm.
emotionally, I was very connected to the story that was happening within the courtroom. I just was, anytime they cut back to the flashbacks of the case, I was like, can we get back to the interesting people internally? I don't know why. That kept it from being like a perfect movie for me. It's the actual way the case was presented in hindsight. I didn't care about these people. I didn't care about her really. I didn't care about the abusive boyfriend. I didn't care about them constantly going back to the bar where he smashes the bottle 5,000 times. You know, and
They
then
showed it from every
uh,
possible angle.
and then a bunch of no-name actors going like, "I've seen him and he was abusive and he talked to her bad." And like none of that was as
I saw him
interesting.
in the rain, bending over by the railing.
Exactly. None of that was as interesting as the actual grouping in there. But let's talk about the ending of this movie.
Mhm.
It ends abruptly,
It
but you
does.
know exactly how it ends.
Oh yeah.
I thought it was a great ending.
Thought it was too.
And Nicholas Holt, like, honestly, but there's some logic here. Why not just move? Why, I mean, like, he could still be held accountable, don't get me wrong. But if he's gonna sell the car and he thinks that, oh, with the car out of our lives, we're good. I don't know. Tuck tail and run. Get out of there. You can't write remotely your little features for your magazine somewhere else. Get out of there. He was just constantly hanging around going, I'm protected because I'm a good guy at and I've made some bad choices in the past. There's a alcoholism angle to this that I think is handled appropriately.
Mhm.
Sometimes a little bit too on the nose,
Yeah,
you know?
a little much.
When he's standing there at the bridge and he drops his coin, and I don't know, that just seemed like, okay, we get it. But still, Clint Eastwood in his 90s churning out stuff that's better than a lot of people in their peak
Oh, yeah.
of their age. I'm really pleased with this. It's one of those sleeper movies of the year for me.
Yep. Same here.
Don't know if it's gonna get any award buzz, don't care. It's
I
just a good grounded movie.
Just a good movie.
Like, I miss movies like this.
I love legal dramas, courtroom dramas.
Yeah,
Feel like we just don't get them anymore.
we
So
don't.
this was just super refreshing, and on top of that, every performance, like we mentioned, is spectacular. So it's just a treat on top of a treat.
But because they didn't give this one a real full release and the whole weight of their promotions department behind it, I doubt you're gonna be getting anything else like this anytime soon because you needed this one to be able to draw some audiences in and
So
be like, "Okay, there's a craving for
so
this."
so there's a paradox there because they'll say, "Oh, these movies don't do well, so let's not market them." But then they don't do those new movies don't do well because they're not marketed and nobody hears about them. But the people who do go see it love it,
Correct,
and this it's just a vicious cycle that's just going to keep continuing until you
correct.
actually decide to take a risk on a courtroom drama.
Something like this, these days, gets made into a six-part series instead
I'm
of
getting real tired of those. 3 episodes are always fluff.
and you know what? We would have the flashback episode at some point. I'd be like, "That was the weakest episode because
Yep.
what was happening in the present was so much more interesting than what was happening in the past." So, once again, Juror number 2, it is one of my favorite 3.5 star out of 5-star movies of the year. I am so close to giving this thing a 4 out of 5, but it's just a couple of things that hold it back, and I'm trying not to hold it against the film, that it is being held back from the public in my frustration. But I can't help, I'm slightly frustrated that more people don't have the opportunity to see this yet. That changes when it drops on Max, but it's a real shame for the theater-going community that those who wanna see it don't really have the opportunity. So, right now, I'm at a very, very solid 3.5 out of 5 for Juror number 2. Tyler, what's your final grade for this Clint Eastwood directed legal drama?
Um, I'm between 3.5 and 4. This is an upper tier 3.5 star movie for me.
Definitely.
It is just such a good watch. And normally when I give movies 3.5 stars, I just mean it was pretty entertaining, but not something I'd revisit. This is something I feel like I'd actually go back and
Yeah.
revisit at some point.
This is a movie I feel very confident in recommending,
Yes.
but because of its scale and because of it just feels like handicapped potential. I right now I'm at a solid 3.5, closer to a 4 though than a 3 for sure. We want to remind you about a 5-star experience that you can have at mybookie.ag where you can bet on anything, anywhere, anytime. You got the college football playoff coming up. Tons of NFL action there, obviously NBA, NHL, so many different sports going right now. Plenty of opportunities to cash out and win or let it ride at MyBookie. Make sure you use that promo code next round and bet and play absolutely anything, anywhere, anytime, only with MyBookie. Have you seen Juror number 2? If not, why are you here at the end of this discussion? Have you seen it? We want to know. Let us know in the comment section below and let us know what you think about it because it is, I think, one of those sleepy good hits that feels like it's from the early 90s for sure, an adult drama that really doesn't get made a lot these days. Let us know and make sure you like and subscribe.